Solid Foundation Israelite Academy 2019, guys, with another awesome edition, another awesome lesson. Got a couple questions from the fans on tonight, so we're going to get in, we're going to get out. Please, by the end of this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, brothers and sisters. We need your help. Do whatever necessary to take notes, because it's going down. So the first question, I want to play the first question, guys. So I am your host, Shabar Israel. That's bringing forth the lesson on tonight, and let's get into it. You will need a King James Bible for the lesson, King James Bible, and you will also need the King James Apocrypha. So once again, you will need these two books for this lesson, Holy Bible and the King James Apocrypha. If you have the King James 1611 Bible, 1611 Bible, don't worry about it, because everything is intact in the 1611 edition of King James. So without further ado, we're going to get right into the lesson, guys, and here's the first question. So let's go ahead and play the first question. All right, so the first question is,
Did the Jews of the Bible go to hell? If so, was it a literal hell or allegorical hell?
so the question is, did the Jews of the Bible did they go to hell? Was it a literal hell or allegorical hell?
Please
help me understand.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into that. We're going to bring you to understanding. So did the Jews of the Bible, once again, as the question was stated, did the Jews of the Bible ever go to a literal hell, or just in general hell? Did the Jews of the Bible go to a hell? If they did, was this hell literal, or was it symbolical, or was it allegorical? So we're going to get into it now. So let's find out, guys. Once again, I will play the question for the last time. I will play the question.
Did the Jews of the Bible go to hell? If so, was it a literal hell or allegorical hell? Please help me understand.
All right, so that's what we're here for, to bring understanding to you guys, over entering and understanding. So we need to figure out, because many religions teach about a burning literal place, such as you see here. Okay, many religions push this, many denominations push this, and a lot of brothers and sisters are kept in fear, because they fear of them, whether it's a her or him, they fear of them being a bad person. Well, they would end up in such place, as you see. But that's another lesson within itself. I want to stick to the question: did the Jews of the Bible, did they go to hell? Did the Jews of the Bible, did they go to hell? If they went to hell, was it a literal hell, or was it symbolical? So here we go. First and foremost, let's go to Acts chapter 6, verse 1 in the Bible. So here we go, Acts 6 and 1. This is the King James Bible. I am on Blue Letter Bible, guys, but it's still the King James Version. So flip there, if you will. Acts chapter 6, verse 1. We'll get into it and see what's going on. Acts 6 and 1. It says, "And there, in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because of their widows were neglected in daily menstruation." And so there was beef, or what you would say commotion or altercation, going on between the Grecians and who? The Hebrews. So this murmuring took place among the Grecians and the Hebrews. So we know, basically, common sense tells us who are the Hebrews. They are the Jews. Okay, what most people would label them to be Galileans. They are the Jews. The Hebrews are the Israelites. We know that. But question is concerning Acts 6 and 1. Who are possibly the Grecians? Because the Grecians and the Hebrews got into a commotion. So let's go into the interlinear. Let's go into the tools, and we're going to check into the Bible concordance to discover who are these Grecians that got in this commotion against the Hebrews. Now you see right here, guys, I want to blow it up. It says Grecians. The Strong's number is 1675, or some may say 1675. As you can see, that Greek stands for Greek because we know the New Testament was written in what language? It was written in the Grecian language. All right? And so Greek 1675 or 1675 for Grecians is
Strong's G 1675. Hellenistes.
Hellenistes. So Hellenistes. So the Grecians, they got in this altercation against the Hebrews. The real term for that in the Greek would be Hellenistes. So let's go ahead and go into 1675. Hellenistes, as you can see, Hellenistes. And what it says, let's discover, right? So let's scroll down. It says a Hellenist. It says a Hellenist. Now, what in the hell is a Hellenist? It says one who imitates the manners, not only the manners, but also the customs or the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. Now, who was imitating the manners and customs and the worship of the Greeks and also used the Greek dialect? Who did that? Okay, it shows you clearly in B. It says, used in the New Testament, NT, Jews that was born in foreign lands speaking Greek. So who imitated the manners and customs and also worshiped the Greek gods and so forth with using the Greek tongue? It was the Jews who did that. So if you was a Jew, my friend, because the question is that did the Jews of the Bible go to hell? And if they did, was it a literal hell or was it symbolical hell? Now, let me explain. As we are cracking it open, you can see concerning the term Hellenist, which is the Grecian word for Grecian, which is the Greek word for Grecian. A Hellenist is a Jew, an Israelite, a Hebrew, who imitates the manners and customs and worship of the Greeks. Basically, an Israelite Hebrew that wants to be a Greek. So he goes, he copies, he impersonates the manners and their philosophies and traditions and customs, and also worship their gods and use their tongue. That's a Hebrew, a Jew, a Hebrew that wants to be a Grecian. So he goes and adopt and follow their customs. That is what a Hellenist is. So we can see that the question was once again,
did the Jews of the Bible go to hell?
Yes, the Jews of the Bible went to hell. Yes, that's true. But it was not the Hollywood concept of hell that you've been given, as you see here. So the Jews went to hell, but they did not enter into such place as you see here. Okay, I want to clear that up, because a lot of individuals may be thinking that the Jews of the Bible went to this type of hell, or that type of hell, or that type of hell, you know, but they did not. So if the Jews of the Bible went to hell, what type of hell did they go to? Because if you're telling me they didn't go to this, what happened? Well, the Jews of the Bible, they were Hellenized. And this Hellenization took place around 333 BC. And that's known as the Hellenistic period. So let me type that in. Hellenistic period. Now you may hear of what you call the Hellenistic period. period. Alexander and the Hellenistic era. So the Hellenistic period started during the rule of the Greeks, basically around 333 BC, right? And you can look at these things on your free time. I'm not gonna break it down 100%, but I would go into it. The Hellenistic period. So the Jews, my friends, never encountered a hell. They never experienced hell until the Hellenistic period. But even so, going through the Hellenistic period, it was not labeled to be how Hollywood will have you to believe. It was not this type of hell that the Jews went through, or that the Jews went to. Okay, so we can see that the Jews did experience the Hellenistic period. When did the Hellenistic period kick off? Hellenistic period, I believe it was like 333 BC. All right. Let's see. We're trying to find the timeline. As you can see, the Grecian Empire, which lasted from 332 BC to 146 BC. And so this is the timeline. Because when you're dealing with BC, it counts down. If you're dealing with AD, it counts up. So we're dealing with BC. So from 332 BC to 146 BC, this is when the Grecian Empire ruled. The Grecians, the Edomites, the white man, this is when he ruled. And this is the timeline that the Israelites, the Jews, that they entered a hell, or that they went into hell. Thus concerning the Hellenistic period. So the question once again, did the Jews of the Bible ever go to hell? Yes, they did. But it's not the hell that Hollywood have led you to believe. Now, I'm going to go further on with this, guys. Now, the Hellenistic world, the world of Alexander the Great. We don't call him Alexander the Great because it was nothing great about this man. This man was wicked as hell. There's nothing great about this devil. Okay? So, yeah. But I'm going to read this short section here. The Hellenistic world, from the Greek word Hellas for Greece, is the known world after the conquests of Alexander the Great, the Greek, and corresponds roughly with the Hellenistic period of ancient Greece from 323 BC, Alexander's death, to the annexation of Greece by Rome in 146 BCE. Although Rome's rule ended, Greek independence and anomy, if I'm pronouncing that right, did nothing to signify change, nor did it in any way halt the Hellenization of the world of the day. In fact, it encouraged it. So Alexander the Greek, 336 from 323 BCE of Macedonia, led his army on a series of campaigns which successfully conquered the then known world from Macedonia through Greece down to Egypt, across Persia to India. Alexander's tutor was the Greek philosopher Aristotle from 384 to 322 BCE, before the Common Era, who impressed upon him the value of Greek culture and philosophy. So Hellenization is dealing with the spread of Greek culture and philosophy. That's what Hellenization is dealing with. So when you think of the Hellenistic period, it's the spread of Greek culture and philosophy. And that's what Alexander did. And his officials as well. So as Alexander campaigned, he did what? He spread it Greek. See? He spread it Greek. He spread Greek thought and culture in his wake, thus Hellenizing, to make Greek in culture and civilization those who conquer. So Hellenization, or what you call the Hellenistic period, guys, is nothing but the spread of Greek culture and philosophy. The spread of Greek culture and philosophy is what you call the Hellenistic period. And that Greek culture and philosophy was put on the Jews. The spread of Greek custom and philosophy, thus dealing with the Hellenistic period, was put on the Jews. So the Jews never really experienced any type of hell until 332 BCE, the beginning of the Grecian Empire, if that makes sense. So, did the Jews of the Bible go to a hell? Yeah, they did. It was they really went through it, the Hellenistic period, and we still Hellenized today with the spreading of Roman Greco culture. So, where can this stuff be found? It can be found in your Bibles. I also have some documents I'm going to go into to show you about the Hellenistic period. Okay, I got this from a book called Judaism for Dummies. I want you guys to see this. As you can see it up at the top. I hope you can see it at the top. I got this out of a book, Judaism for Dummies, on page 175. And it talks about Hellenization period. So I'm going to zoom in and let you guys see for yourselves that yes, the Jews did go to hell, but it was not the dramatic hell that Hollywood will have you to believe, such as flames and demons and devils with pitchforks. It's all Greek to me. So nothing lasts forever, including the Persian Empire, which was conquered by the Greeks, led by Alexander the Greek in 332 BCE. At first, this meant little to the Jews, other than having to learn Greek. So when the Jews basically were subjugated and when they were subdued by the Grecians forced their customs and philosophies on the Jews and made them learn the Grecian language and made them also worship their Grecian gods and many of the traditions of the Greeks. The Greeks did that to the Hebrews, to the Jews, and this is known as the Hellenistic era. So, the Jews had to learn Greek. However, after Alexander's death, 9 years later, the empire was split among his 4 generals, 2 of whom are important to Jewish history. And you can read about this also in the Apocrypha, especially First Maccabees. If you go to First Maccabees, it tells you all what I'm reading about now. First Maccabees tells you about Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim and smit Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, and how the Grecians conquered the Persians, and how he reigned in the place of Darius the king, and how he reigned over Greece, how Alexander reigned over Greece for 12 years, and after 12 years he died. All this can be found in First and Second Maccabees, primarily the first, really First Maccabees of the Apocrypha. You might want to read the first chapter, and so it tells you that after Alexander died, he parted his kingdom among his 4 generals, and these generals, they were Seleucus. He formed the Seleucid Empire and had control over what had been the Persian Empire. And Seleucus was a Greek. So after he left off with after he took over the Persian Empire, he spread Greek culture and philosophy. Ptolemy, he formed the Ptolemaic Empire and had control over Egypt. So Ptolemy, he was a Greek. And what did he do when he went down into Egypt? He spread Greek culture and philosophy, you see. And also, not only Seleucus and Ptolemy, it was also Lysimachus who gained power and control over Asia Minor, and Cassander was kind of in the deal too with Seleucus. All right, and so these 4 generals Seleucus, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, and Cassander, they picked off, they took over what Alexander picked off after his death. The Seleucid and the Ptolemaic empires were almost constant warfare over their boundaries. Unfortunately, Judah sat right in the middle of the two and was passed back and forth many times. So you can see Judea, which is Judah, southern Israel, sat right in the middle of the Seleucid and Ptolemaic empires. And so you can bet your ass that the Jews that sat in the middle of the Seleucid and Ptolemaic empires, they were subjugated, they were subdued, they was overtaken by the Grecian Empire. And guess what the Greeks did to the Jews? They spread Greek culture and philosophy. Last but not least, made the Jews learn the Grecian language, and they made the Jews stop keeping their customs, stop keeping their Sabbaths, stop keeping the holy days. They made the Jews totally submit to the Grecian will. And what is this called? Hellenization period. So that's why in the book of Acts, chapter 6, verse 1, you had Grecians that went against the Hebrews. And these Grecians was nothing but Jews, Israelites. They was Hebrews as well, but there was just Jews, Hebrew Israelites, that was heavily overtaken by Grecian culture and philosophy. You see? And so, yes, question is, did the Jews ever go to hell in the Bible? Yes, they went through the hell during the beginning of the Hellenistic period, starting from 332 BC and ranging all the way from, where's that timeline? Starting from 332 BC on out. I can't even find the timeline right now, but you guys get the point, okay? So yes, this can be found in First Maccabees in their apocryphal books, that the Protestant Catholics took it out, okay? And it also can be found in your Bible, dealing with the book of Daniel. And you might want to read Daniel's, let's see, Daniel chapter, wait a minute, let me see where it talks about the Hellenistic period in the book of Daniel. So yeah, so you can see right here, man, those Grecians were Jews that was Hellenized by the literal Greeks, the Edomites. All right, you can read about this also in Daniel, like I stated, and I believe this is in Daniel's the 8th chapter. Daniel's the 8th chapter. You can read about that. Daniel's the 8th chapter. Just read Daniel the 8th chapter that speaks about the ram and the rough goat. The ram represented the Persian Mede Empire, and the goat represented the Grecian Empire. And we know that he-goat in Daniel's chapter 8, that he-goat had a notable horn between his eyes, and that horn depicted Alexander, the first to rule over Greece. You see, and then that he-goat in Daniel chapter 8 the he-goat trodden over that ram. That means that the Grecians end up defeating the Persians and gaining power and controlling the earth to spread Hellenism, thus spreading Greek culture and philosophy on the Jews and many other people. And this is all talked about in Daniel chapter 8. All right. I'm just giving you guys a quick breakdown. So, question is, did the Jews of the Bible ever go into hell? They did, starting from 332 BCE. Thus dealing with the reign of Alexander, from down to Alexander to his four generals, from his four generals from his four generals to King Antiochus IV that really brought in the Hellenization period. And I'm going to show you this, guys. So let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1. And let's look at that online. First Maccabees chapter 1. Chapter 1. Let's take a look at that. Maccabees is in the apocryphal books, 14 books that was extracted from the Bible by the Protestants, the Catholic Protestants, because they felt like the books was not in relations to the Gospels, or they felt like the books was not they was non-canonical. But we know that's a lie. So the truth shall set you free. So I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna close out. So this is First Maccabees. Like I was stating earlier, now you guys are seeing it for yourselves. First Maccabees in the Apocrypha. It says, and it happened. What happened? It came to pass when the Jews of the Bible went through hell. Or should I say they entered hell or they went to hell. But it was not the dramatic Hollywood scene of hell that they would give you today to believe. Like as far as people literal burning in fire and brimstone, you got demons and devils with pitchforks. That's not the type of hell that the Jews experienced. The hell that the Jews experienced was known as the Hellenistic era, the Hellenistic period. So, is it safe to say the Jews went to hell in the Bible? Yes, but it was never the cooked up, iconic, fabulous Hollywood hell, or like the Christian church would have you to believe. Okay, so let's read about it. First Maccabees chapter 1. And it happened after Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, which all these was Grecians, who came out the land of Chittim, smit Darius the king of the Persians and the Medes. So the Grecians defeated King Darius, which was the king of the Persians and the Medes, and that King Alexander the Great, Alexander the Greek, reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. So who was the first Grecian king? It was Alexander. That's why we told you in Daniel's chapter 8, when you read about the ram and the rough goat vision, the he-goat, Daniel's chapter 8, verse 5, it goes into, it tells you that the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. The notable horn that was between the goat's eyes was Alexander, which was the first king to rule over Greece, and he ruled over Greece for 12 years, and we're going to read about that. So this is the beginning of the Hellenistic period, when the Jews start to go through, what you call hell, or to become Hellenized, or the Jews had to undergo the spreading of Greek culture and philosophy that was put on them. So you'll see, because it really got heavy when Antiochus took the reign. But we would go on. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 2. And made many wars. So Alexander made many wars and won many strongholds and slew kings of the earth. These kings of the earth that Alexander slew, these was black kings of the earth that he slew. First Maccabees 1 and 3. He went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Basically, Alexander made these countries and nations pay taxes unto him. First Maccabees 1 and 5. And after these things, he fell sick. Like I said, history says that Alexander died of syphilis, some type of venereal, some type of STD disease. But anyways, Alexander fell sick. He perceived that he should die, and this where it comes in with him parting his kingdom among his four generals. As we was looking at here, it says right here, Judaism for Dummies, page 175, says that Alexander's death eventually came. 9 years later, after his death, the empire was split among 4 Greek generals. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. In First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 5, after these things he felt sick and perceived that he should die. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 6, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth. So he was close to these people, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. First Maccabees 1 and 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years total, and then he died. First Maccabees 1 and 8. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. And who was his servants, also known as his generals? We went over these. Seleucus, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, and also Cassander. This is the beginning of the Hellenization period. Okay, now we're going to show you in Judaism for Dummies, page 175. We'll go on down. It says the betold and short of it. For most of the next century, Jerusalem and the Judean kingdom was ruled by the Ptolemaic Empire, and life was fairly good, and it was so good that many Jews spoke only Greek. You see that? It tells you here, during the time the Greeks took over, there was many Jews that was Hellenized and placed under the culture of the Greeks to follow their traditions and philosophies. And there was many Jews who spoke only Greek, especially those who lived in the Egyptian city of Alexandria, because Alexandria in Egypt was named after Alexander. And so there was Jews that spoke only Greek. And that's why in the Bible, we showed you in Acts chapter 6, verse 1, there was Grecians that murmured against the Hebrews. Both of these are actually Hebrews, but Israelite Hebrews that was heavily placed under Greek philosophy and culture, that was known as Grecians, or what you would call Hellenists. You see, Jews became increasingly Hellenized. That is, they assimilated into Greek culture or philosophy, art and sport. So Jews became Hellenized, like a lot of Jews in America today has become Americanized. You see, thinking that they are Americans, don't even know their nationality when they are actually Hebrew Israelites. But it's a lot of our people that don't know their native language. They don't know their native customs and their God. And so you have these lost sheep, blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, that have increasingly been Hellenized in America. Same deal. So Jews became increasingly Hellenized. That is, they assimilated into Greek culture. So what does it mean to be in hell? What for a Jew, what does it mean to be in hell? If you're a Jew, what does it mean to truly be in hell? To be Hellenized, and that is to assimilate into Greek culture. When they forcing you to speak Greek, when you a Hebrew Israelite that speak Hebrew and don't know a damn thing about the Grecian dialect, they gonna force you to speak Greek. They gonna force you to worship Grecian gods. They gonna force you to follow Greek philosophy and tradition. When you're a Hebrew Israelite and you don't want to do that, they force you to do that. And if you don't do that, and if you don't follow out the Greek culture and philosophy, they will have you killed as a Jew. This is what happened during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, and that was known as the beginning of the Hellenization period. And all this is talked about in First Maccabees. All this talked about in First Maccabees, in the what? In the apocryphal books, guys. So yes, the Jews did go to hell, but the hell they went through was the spread of Greek culture that was heavily placed on them. Okay? and they assimilated to it. Many of the Jews who yearned to become part of the new cultural opportunities. So if you was heavily influenced on the Greek culture and you yearned to become a part of Greek culture, you yearned to become a part of Greek philosophy and Grecian art and Grecian sports, then you was known as a Hellenist, also known as a Grecian, according to Acts 6:1. And so you was in hell because you was heavily influenced by the Greeks, and they called it Hellenization. If that make any sense to you, we can go on down in First Maccabees, and you can see going on down. Let's start with the Hellenization period. First Maccabees and verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. Epiphanes means chosen by God, so he thought he was the son of Antiochus the king, because Antiochus the fourth was the son of Antiochus the third, which was his father. So Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. He reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So Antiochus the fourth, which was the son of Antiochus the third, he was a Grecian, a Greek, a Edomite, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. What did Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes do to the Hebrews? First Maccabees verse 11, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men. So you had Israelite Jews that became wicked men. What makes you wicked is when you stop following the laws of the Heavenly Father, which he gave to you as a nation. And there went out wicked men, wicked Jews, who persuaded many of the Jews that was keeping the law. They persuaded these Jews to follow after Grecian philosophy and culture. And they said, let us go and make a covenant. Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen being the Grecians, the Edomites. That are round about us. They was in Grecian captivity. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So they had the Jews thinking that these Grecians brainwashed certain Jews and had these Jews depending on them. Like they couldn't make it without them. Like a lot of niggas in America. You've been Americanized, depending on the government. Got you thinking you can't make it without the white man. First Maccabees 1 and 12. So this device pleased them well. First Maccabees 1 and 13. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king. They went to the Grecian king, who gave them license, gave them basically certifications to do after the ordinances of the heathen. That's the Uncle Tom nigga, man. But that's what you had. You had some of our people that went to Grecian kings to get them certifications to do and follow after the customs and traditions of the Greeks. Now tell me that ain't Hellenism. Tell me that ain't Hellenism. So what is hell is when an Israelite Jew chooses to be overtaken by Grecian culture and philosophy. So that's the hell that the Greeks put on the Jews. Whereupon they built the place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the Grecians. So basically, you had Jews who wanted to follow the customs of the Greeks, thus making themselves Grecians according to Acts 6 and 1, or you may say Hellenists. So that's the real deal behind the Jew going to hell, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I can go on with the chapter, but you can read First Maccabees on the rest of it on your own free time. You can check out First Maccabees. The rest of this on your own free time, which is listed in the apocryphal books, guys. But yeah, I hope I answered your question. The question that we started off with was,
did the Jews of the Bible go to hell?
Did the Jews of the Bible go to hell? We explained that yes, they did, but it was not the type of fabulistic hell you've been given by Hollywood in your Christian church. The Jews went through what you call the Hellenistic period, thus beginning in 332 BCE, thus beginning with Alexander the Greek, on down with his 4 generals to Antiochus IV, which really Hellenized the Grecians. Really Hellenized the Jews and forced them to fall out of the Grecian customs.
If so, was it a literal hell or allegorical hell?
It was not a literal hell. We explained the hell that the Jews had to undergo, and that was them being subjugated by the Grecians, basically being brought under the captivity of the Grecians and being forced to follow the Grecians' philosophies, customs, and traditions. Last but not least, speak the Grecian tongue. All right, guys. So I'm going to close this out. Hope I answered that question well. I'm going to close this out. As you can see, we showed you page 175, Judaism for Dummies. We showed you, it says the Jews had to learn Greek. It says down here, the Jews became increasingly Hellenized. That is, they assimilated into Greek culture and philosophy, art, and sport. It also says right here, many of the Jews who yearn to become part of the new cultural opportunities we also, King James Bible, also in the King James Bible, here's a section I want to show you guys in the King James Bible. It talks about the Grecian period, what took place in the 400 years between the Old and New Testament. Hellenization took place. What took place in the 400 years between the Old and New Testament? Hellenization took place. The Jews was Hellenized and was forced to follow Greek custom, philosophy, and traditions, if that makes sense. More it talks about in this King James Bible. Also, I scanned it. It talks about Antiochus Epiphanes. You know what I'm saying? His rulership. How he it says how he forced the Jews. See, the Jews in terms of Hellenism, which was being forced upon all. Once within its wall, he spent 3 days plundering and slaughtering the citizens. Like I said, man, all of this is dealing with how the Jews entered that hell. This is the New American Bible, which is a Catholic Bible. It also talks about the history of the Jews before Christ came on the scene. Show you guys that. The Jews living in few centuries before Christ were divided into 2 groups. The Jews dwelling in Palestine and speaking Hebrew, and the large number of Jews scattered throughout the Roman Empire. See that? So we already know concerning the book of Romans who that was written for. The dispersed Israelites and speaking the Greek language. So you had Jews that was scattered throughout Rome and also speaking the Greek language, man, as a consequence of the conquest of Alexander the Great of Greece, thus dealing with the Hellenistic period. And here goes some book chapters and verses you can look at in your Holy Bible. We looked at Acts 6 and 1. You see, we haven't looked at Acts 9 and 29, but we will look at that, Acts 9 and 29. You see that, guys? So we can shoot over to Acts 9 and 29 in terms of Hellenism, Acts 9 and 29. And we can see Acts 9 and 29. And he spoke Bailey, and he spoke Salah. He spoke boldly. This is concerning I believe I believe this is Peter. I believe. Let's see. Or it could be Paul. I believe it's Paul. Acts 9 and 29. He spake boldly in the name of the Lord Yahweh Shai, who they know as Jesus today, and disputed against the Grecians. See that? He disputed against the Grecians. Who was the Grecians? Jews that was heavily influenced by Greek culture and philosophy. You see that? Because the Grecians wanted to slay, I believe this is talking about Paul. And he disputed against the Grecians, which was nothing but Jews that was heavily influenced on the Grecian philosophy. Because you can go back up in Acts chapter 9 and it tells you. Acts chapter 9 and it was telling you how the Jews sought to kill Paul, I believe. Let's see. Wait a minute. See right here. Acts 9 and 23. It says, after many days were fulfilled, it tells you, it gives away the answer. It says, the Jews took counsel to kill him. So the Jews took counsel to kill Paul. Before he was Paul, he was Saul. Now you go down to Acts 9 and 29, it tells you who they are. It says, he disputed against the Grecians, but they went about to kill him. So the Grecians in Acts 9:29, the Grecian goes back to the Jews in Acts 9:23. See? So what is a Grecian? Nothing but a Hellenized Jew. And how do a Jew become Hellenized? When they heavily influence and force the fallout of the Grecian custom. Okay? Enough said on that. What else? We showed you that. The intertestamental period, 400 years between the old and the new, between Malachi and the Gospel of Matthew. Intertestamental period, often called silent years, because there was no prophetic word from God during these years. The Persians were eventually replaced by the Greeks, as Alexander the Greek conquered the world, and he did what? He Hellenized the Middle East. That is, what is Hellenism? Spreading Greek culture. Okay, so yeah, guys. Yeah, so see it for yourself. Page 101. Page 101 in this book that's called Chronological Bible Times. It says, Greek customs became more common among the Jews, and they continued to speak Greek. Jewish people, the Jews, they continue to speak Greek. And that is a form of Hellenization. So yes, did the Jews go to hell? Yes. Right here, we don't want this to be no longer than an hour. Okay, and in between the testaments is a period about 400 years, often referred to as intertestamental period, which can be divided into 4 sections. The late Persian period, the Grecian period of independence. That's when that's talking about the Maccabean revolt, and then the Roman period, beginning with the first Roman emperor, which was Caesar Augustus, I believe. Caesar Augustus. He might not have been the first Roman emperor, but I know he was the longest reigning Roman emperor, the longest reigning Caesar. So you have between that 400-year period between the Old and New Testament, you have that's basically in the apocryphal books. That's First and Second Maccabees. Read about that and they'll tell you. Many of the apocryphal books was written during this period of time. See, such as First and Second Maccabees do provide factual information about the intertestamental period, especially in relation to the Maccabean revolt against the Hellenistic overlords led by Antiochus IV Epiphanes. So what happened between that 400-year period between Malachi and Matthew? The Grecians was Hellenizing the Jews. The Grecian was forcing their customs, philosophies, and traditions heavily among the Jews, causing the Jews to become Hellenized, thus making the Jews Grecian. Okay. Like I said, I don't have to keep reiterating these things. Like I said, I got plenty evidence and literature on this. I mean, I don't have to keep going through this, guys. You can see it for yourself. In 333 BC, Alexander the Greek, at the age of 21, set out to destroy Persia and take over the Middle East. By 331 BC, Alexander conquered all the territory from Asia Minor to Egypt, including Judah and Jerusalem. Judah and Jerusalem is dealing with the Hebrews. So the Hebrews, yes, was conquered by Alexander, which was a Grecian. You see that? And then basically, eventually, it says that Alexander founded Greek cities and colonies such as Alexandria, which was named after Alexandria down in Egypt, and the spread of the Greek language. What is the spread of Greek language and culture? What's the spread of Greek languages and culture? Hellenism. You see that, guys? Even when you look into the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, dealing with page 207, in terms of Grecians, it says Grecians were Greek-speaking Jews, folks of dispersion from areas predominantly Greek. So Greek-speaking Jews was known as Grecians, also known as Hellenists. So that's the real hell for you. That's when a Jew went into what you call hell. That's when the Jews first encountered hell. They encountered hell there in the Hellenistic period, also known as the abomination of desolation, spoken by Daniel, also in the 8th chapter of King James. Showing you guys the whole thing. What is a Hellenist? Hellenists are what? Hellenists are Jews who made Greek their tongue, and with it often adopted Greek ideals, practices, listed in Acts 6:1 and Acts 9:29. So Hellenists ain't nothing but Jews that was known as Grecians who made Greek their tongue and adopted Greek ideals and practices. You see that? Right there in your face, guys. So I think I covered it all. In terms of, did the Jews of the Bible go to hell? You damn right they went to hell. And when did this start? When did this period start? The beginning of the Hellenistic era. So just type in Hellenistic period, Hellenistic area. I mean, not area, but era. And we can see that according to that the Jews encountered or went into hell during that time, 332 BC, thus beginning with Alexander the Great, guys. So this has been another wonderful lesson on the behalf of, you guessed it, Solid Foundation Israelite Academy. Please like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Hope I was a help to you. Until next lesson, we want to say peace, love, and much respect. Guys, once again, before I close it out, the Jews, they never experienced the hell until 332 on out. This is known as the Hellenistic period, or the Hellenistic era, where the Jews will undergo hell. But it was not, once again, this hell here. Okay, wait a minute. It was not this type of hell. Shalom.